So I'm going to look at 5 different camera apps. FiLMiC Pro, the Moment camera app, Beastcam, ProTake and ProCam 8. And I'm going to see which one is the best for shooting video on an iPhone.
There are apps that are great for social media or fun effects, but this isn't a video about those. This is about apps that give you manual control, log profiles, some of them, Dolby Vision, 10-bit color in iPhone 12s, and cool time-lapse controls and that kind of stuff. I'll go through each app, looking at their user interface, features, online resources like user manuals and tutorials, and finally, price. Bear in mind that different sized screens may look different when it comes to interface layout. All of the apps in this video allow you to set and lock all the usual controls: focus, shutter speed, ISO, resolution, bitrate, and white balance. They also allow you to switch lenses. The question is, how well do they perform these tasks? Let's find out. One of the first, if not the first camera app to bring you DSLR-like control over your iPhone. The interface has evolved over the years. This is necessary to accommodate a steadily increasing feature list. In fact, some might find there's just too many features and it's a bit overwhelming. Personally, I think the balance is just about right. Of course, I'm somewhat biased, having used the app regularly for a number of years, as well as making a lot of tutorials. Using the focus and exposure reticles in combination with the focus and exposure wheels, it's all pretty intuitive. Accessing advanced features like 10-bit color, Dolby Vision, and log settings is pretty straightforward. Some of the interface is customizable. For example, the zoom rocker can be removed. One small complaint I have is these 3 dots, which can be used to set an ISO bias. If you're trying to lock shutter or ISO, you can accidentally tap them, messing up your exposure. So it'd be nice to have a button that we could toggle this on and off at least. FiLMiC Pro has a ton of features, giving you just about as much manual control over your iPhone as is possible. There's integration with smartphone gimbals, the DJI Osmo Mobile series, Xeon Smooth 4, and the now unfortunately discontinued Movi Cinema robot. There's also the image flip for depth of field adapters. FiLMiC Pro offers 10-bit and Dolby Vision on the recent iPhone 12s, plus an updated log version 3 for use with the iPhone 12's 10-bit color. There's also a remote control and monitoring option via FiLMiC Remote, although this is a separate purchase. This allows you to control or simply monitor FiLMiC Pro via a second device. While FiLMiC Pro does have a time-lapse feature, it doesn't have the slow shutter speed option to give you that nice motion blur, which is great for certain shots. FiLMiC Pro has a user manual on their website, plus plenty of helpful videos. I think the manual is a little bit out of date, but 99% of it is still relevant. Plus, because they are so well known, there are literally hundreds, maybe thousands, of YouTubers creating helpful FiLMiC Pro content. FiLMiC also provides D-Log LUTs to use with their log profiles. FiLMiC Pro costs $14.99, or the equivalent depending on your local currency. But if you want the log settings, then you will need to purchase the cinematographer's kit, which last time I bought it was about the same price. It's a one-off fee, so once you have it, it will work on all your iOS devices into the future. The Moment app interface is nice to look at, quite similar to Apple's native camera app interface. It's not too cluttered either. Rather than distribute buttons all the way around the screen, on every side, most settings are accessed via controls at each end. So you have 2 strips. On the right we have a record button, mode switch from stills to video, and access to extra settings. Next to that is the manual controls, swipe up and down to access ISO, white balance, focus, shutter speed, and exposure value. On the left we have audio levels, and to the left of that, more settings controls. Again, swipe up and down for the setting you need. At the bottom we have some live analytics, and top corner are the controls to switch internal lenses. If you want to use reticles like FiLMiC Pro, then tap the screen to bring those up. I like that you can just cycle through the rear lenses without having a separate menu pop up. Just tap until you get the lens you want. Certainly if you own Moment lenses, then it makes sense to use the app too. They even have a settings menu containing a preset for each Moment lens. The Moment app contains all the essential features for manual control. I personally don't find the up and down sliders quite as nice to use as the wheel option used in other apps. Once set, the settings are displayed sideways, so it's not quite so easy to read. But I do like the fact you can set your shutter speed freely and are not locked into shutter speeds left over from film cameras. We're shooting digitally, so let's have the freedom to set a shutter speed of 1/29th if we want. There's some handy presets for quick setup, like everyone's favorite word combo, cinematic video. Tap one of these presets to get quickly to the settings you need. You can also input your own custom settings and save them for later use. Sadly, I find this feature doesn't work too well on my iPhone 12 Pro Max, as not all the settings change correctly. The Moment app comes with a flat and log setting as well as the natural profile. Currently, there seems to be no access to Dolby Vision or 10-bit color, however, which you can access with other apps. In terms of gimbals, there is some support for DJI Osmo mobile devices. Moment generally tends to aim more at photographers than videographers, and in this app you will be able to shoot stills as well as video. Another plus is being able to shoot time-lapse with motion blur. Moment has a very popular YouTube channel which contains a few useful tutorials, but by no means comprehensive. On their website I found a tutorial page, but some links were broken and other videos dated back to 2018. But there are some Moment app enthusiasts making YouTube tutorials as well. If you're happy to give Moment your email, they will send you tips. The Moment camera app currently costs $6.99 in the App Store, and if you want the extra motion blur and time-lapse features, they are an in-app purchase, $3.99 each. Although I got them both in a $3.99 bundle. ProTake is another app that has a nice, simple interface. While it doesn't have that old-school, authentic camera feel, it's pretty easy on the eye. Also, it carries over some elements from the Apple native app, like the exposure focus lock reticle and the 3 lens control buttons on the right. If you want to declutter the screen, tap this button to immediately clear it. No distractions. And you don't have to hunt around in the settings either. This interface just feels quick and easy. So if speed is more important to you than messing around with settings, this could be the app for you. Everything is just so quick to access. In auto mode, you have your basic controls but easier to reach. But there's 3 other modes available: Pro, Dual and Portrait. Pro gives you access to all the manual settings with exposure and focus wheels similar to FiLMiC Pro, and no ISO bias to get in the way. Again, like Moment, we have a free shutter setting, which I personally prefer. You can have any shutter speed you want, 1/24th, 1/37th, whatever. There's 8-bit, there's 10-bit, there's Dolby Vision. There's 4 different levels of stabilization: off, standard, cinematic, and one more, extreme. If you use extreme, the monitor becomes heavily delayed, but the result is pretty nice smooth footage. The looks button gives you access to various filters and the log C profile. You will need to download them first, however. Next to that is the beauty mode, which gives this app that social media angle missing from the others. There's also portrait mode, which uses the iPhone's LiDAR scanner to add a blurry background, and dual mode, which allows you to record from 2 different cameras on your device at the same time. There's 3 different layouts to choose from. So I have to say, ProTake really comes with a remarkable number of features, especially if you have an iPhone with a LiDAR scanner and Dolby Vision. Basically, there's almost nothing. The app is made by a company called Blink Academy Limited, but a search for that was no help. I eventually found a webpage, protake.plus, which has nothing but an email link. Everything has a but, and this is ProTake's but, so to speak. This app is free to download and you can use it in auto mode, but if you want the other modes, then there's a subscription to pay. And ProTake currently costs $19.99 per year, so that really makes this the most expensive app in the list, if you intend using the app long term. On the plus side, this subscription covers you for both iOS and Android. I originally subscribed to the app on Android, and all I had to do was log into my account, and the Pro modes were immediately enabled. ProCam was used in the recently shot on iPhone production by Apple, and they produced some amazing results. with just an iPhone and ProCam, and tons of lighting kit, production crew, and professional post-production technicians. Anyway, the interface is the cleanest out of all the apps. Controls are very minimal. Press the M button on the left to open up the manual controls. Above that, buttons for switching cameras. A little arrow under the record button opens up basic settings like resolution and frame rate. So you can set your resolution and frame rate combination by scrolling up and down this long list. That's probably going to take a bit longer than having frame rate and resolution separate. Top right is a settings button which opens a series of menus. Here you can switch stabilization on or off, change codec, set time-lapse and more. Like the Moment app, ProCam 8 allows you to take photos too. Aside from the usual features, there's time-lapse and portrait mode for blurry backgrounds. The other features here are for photography. The app allows HDR Dolby Vision, but no log profile is currently available. One feature unique to this app, compared to the other apps I'm looking at here, is what they call 4K Max Video, which requires an extra in-app purchase. This option shoots at a higher 4K resolution than normal, 4032 by 2268 pixels, which is, they say, 10% higher than the pixel count of standard 4K. ProCam say there are a number of advantages to shooting in this format. 150 megabits per second bitrate, a wider angle of view because there's no stabilization, a more accurate color reproduction, and superior low-light performance. On the downside, you can't use stabilization, there's no 60 frames per second, and the file sizes are approximately 4 times larger. There's also no HDR Dolby Vision option using this. There's a ProCam website with a page for tutorials. It's pretty basic, but enough to get you started. And also, I emailed support with a query, and they responded within a few hours, so that's good. Aside from that, there appear to be a few reviews of ProCam 8, but not too many tutorials on YouTube. ProCam costs about the same as other camera apps, a one-off $7.99. There are also in-app purchases, which add on top. And if you want the 4K Max feature, that is an extra $4.99. The Beastcam app interface has a very scientific look to it, and is certainly the busiest of all those reviewed here. One reviewer compared it to something out of a fighter jet. There's all the basic controls we need, laid out precisely around the screen. Personally, the nerd in me enjoys having so much detail in the interface, but it might be distracting for some. I like the way the resolution, frames per second, bitrate, and bit depth are all accessed in this panel at the left. See, now you can tap through each setting and immediately see what is possible. If I switch to 10-bit color, then 120 and 240 frames per second grey out right there, telling me it's not possible, so I don't have to hunt around in another menu to find out. There's focus and exposure reticles, as with other apps. One small down thumb is the subtle color change when you lock the reticles from white to pastel blue. I found sometimes I can't see if it's locked or not. Beastcam doesn't seem to carry any unique features that we don't find in other apps. It's more defined by the way it's laid out. The app presents all the important settings in a way that is intuitive and friendly. There's no log profile, and white balance has no lock on record setting, for example. On the plus side, it is also a still camera. If you want to store presets, you will need to set up an account and be logged in. Although this has the advantage of being able to access presets on other devices. You can shoot 4K at up to 160 megabits per second bitrate if you set it to Beast level. There are some interesting user features for the app. If you long press the app icon before opening, you can choose how you want the app to open. Last setting, default, or photo mode. So there's no flashy or gimmicky features. There's not even any kind of time-lapse option, let alone with motion blur. You can't record in different ratios. All you can do is set some guides, so you will need to crop your video when editing. So rather than tons of features, this app gives you pretty much nothing but the basics, but in a well thought out way. Beastcam say they're implementing new features like log, but considering how long we had to wait for the app, I wouldn't expect new features to arrive too quickly. That said, I do like this app, and I'll use this if I know I just want to shoot nice video with no distracting extras. Go to the Beastcam website and you'll find a well laid out list of tutorials, as well as some video tutorials on their YouTube channel. The website support is really well laid out. Everything is explained in a way that's easy to navigate. You can see they put effort into this side of things. However, it hasn't been updated since last June. But still, when I wanted to check on a few things, I found the answers quite easily. Beastcam is currently $14.99, which is not the cheapest, but at least there are no hidden extras.
So those are my favourite apps for shooting video on an iPhone. And they all have a slightly different flavour, I think, depending on how you like to film and what features you're looking for. What do you think? What's your favourite? Do you have others that you know about and you think should be on this list? Just let us know in the comments. One thing I wanted to tell you, which I probably should have told you earlier, which is that Mobile Motion is actually a film festival. And you might not get that from watching the videos on the channel. And we're open to submissions right now. We've had, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 or so far. And we're open until later in the year. You can submit via Film Freeway. So if you've got any short films or long films, we even take feature films. We also accept scripts, short scripts. So get sending those in if you've got some masterpieces tucked away somewhere. Yeah, cool. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, found it useful, and I'll see you in the next. Cheers.